Okay, some while ago I had to renew my passport because I had less than 6 months on it, which I find annoying because I think you should be able to use the last 6 months of your passport. But anyway, that's another issue altogether. So I renewed my passport, went through all the rigmarole, renewed my passport, got my new passport just recently. So while I was at it, I got the new one and I got the old one back, even though they've cut off the code numbers on it. I thought I'd rip open the cover and have a look and find out what this chip is that's been in the passport I've had for the last 10 years. So I did that and took some photos of it. Here's some of the photos, which shows the page that I ripped off and the chip that's in it. And there's the second photo, which shows a close-up of it. You'll notice, which I'll point out later on, that there's a chip in the middle there. And by the way, this page is in the middle of the book, in the middle of the passport somewhere, and I had to rip it open to get it. I'm not going to use that passport, so I thought I'd have a look at it. So I discovered, well, what is this all about? So I thought I'd learn a little bit more about it. So what I did is typical. I went to Wikipedia and did a search on it and found some of this, which is, first of all, a Gizmo article about some new technology. This Gizmo article was written in 2014, 2 years ago, June 2014. But it's talking about some of the new technology in terms of the ink and the on the passports, so that it's more difficult for people to forge the passports. I suppose it would be difficult to forge the chip that's on it, but I guess it isn't, because I don't know. I suppose you can get them from anywhere. Don't know. Anyway, so it talks about the chip there at the side of it. It talks about the smart gate that's used at some of the terminals to read the chip so you can get through faster. Sometimes, usually, helping you get through faster. My experience is you can get through that area faster. However, you've still got to line up to get your baggage, all that sort of thing. So there's no great advantage having the chip there, as far as I can see. All right, so it uses technology called RFID. RFID. So I thought I'd look up what RFID is and find out a bit more about it. So typical. I get more my information from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia tells me that it stands for radio frequency identification. Now, interesting that I found about it was it says, in addition, it actually uses radio waves and says that and you don't need any power with some of these devices, and it may operate at thousands of meters from the RFID reader. That got me concerned. So thousands of meters from it. Interesting. So I decided to read a little bit more and found something a bit about passports. And it says here, this whole section about passports, talk about other first countries doing it. And it says, since 2006, RFID tags included in the United States will store the same information as printed on the passport, including a digital photo of the owner. The United States Department initially stated that the chips could only be read at a distance of some 3.9 inches, but after widespread criticism and a clear demonstration that specialised equipment can read the test passports from 10 metres, 33 feet away, the passports were determined to were designed to incorporate a thin metal lining to make it more difficult for unauthorised readers to skim the information when the passport is closed. The department also included basic access controls, functions such as personal identification number in the form of the characters printed on the passport, so it's not really personal, it's inside the passport, data page, before passports tag can be read. This PIN must be rented to the RFID reader. The BAC enables the encryption and also enables encryption and any other communication between the chip and the interpreter. It says, noted in the section below on security, if you want to read this, it's in this article here, just go into Wikipedia and look up RFID, right? And stations in which these was insufficient, and passwords have been cloned based on scams to make them while being delivered in the mail. And my concern was that perhaps people were being able to scan it, considering the initial description at the top of the article, which said a distance of 1,000 metres, this one here, from outside my property. Anyway, Turns out that's not too much of a worry because you've actually got to put in other information as well. However, I decided to take it a little bit further and look at what other way, could I read the information on it. So I did some search again on the internet and found this thing. It was a nice YouTube video, which I won't play, but basically this YouTube video shows you how to download an application, how to scan it, and then also put the passport on a thing and it reads all the information, including the picture, which is what exactly I did. In the case of the Australian passport, though, I found it read all the information except for the picture. Okay, so that's the go. There's the situation. You can have a situation where people can read the information remotely. However, they need to have some information about the passport beforehand. But if anybody grabs your passport, scans it in a device, they've got that information anyway. Then is it all need to be worried about? The only thing I'm more worried about is not just probably the passport information, but I'm reading more about this RFID stuff, that it's embedded in lots of different devices and it can be quite small. I'll just do a quick search here on small. Okay. So it turns out that these devices can be so small that there's an example of one about the size of a grain of rice, but later on in the article actually mentions that the smallest one's been produced by Hitachi, which is 0.5 millimetre. So in terms of that grain of rice, let's say it's about 4 or 5 millimetres long, 0.5 millimetre be just the head of that grain of rice. That's how small they can be made. They also, there's a worry that however, even if they're made small, they're not going to work very well because you've got to be really close to them. In fact, they've made them so small that they'll work on ants. They've stuck them on ants, but of course then the reader's got to be very close to the ants. However, in terms of devices that you have in your home, where you get these things, which I'll talk about in a minute, going back to my photos again, where are they, photo? As you can see, the aerial, in the case of my passport, was embedded in the passport. I didn't even know it was there. I've got other devices I've got that I've bought from various organisations that got packaging. And by the way, they use this RFID when you're going in and out of shopping centres, so that if you walk out, an alarm goes off. So that's how far the distance of it works. However, with the aerial in it, there's no reason why anybody coming outside, sitting outside your property, can see what RFID devices you've got that you may not even know it's got inside your products. For example, your mobile phones, your computers, virtually anything, seeing it's only half the size of a grain of rice. And it's also, the aerial can be hidden, but the aerial can be quite big, the size of a book, for example. So anybody going past your house can find out what devices you've got inside your house by having an RFID reader. And remembering, RFID readers, admittedly the bigger ones are a bit hard to read, but there's one built in the back of your phone. That's the one I used to read my passport. I was able to quite easily do it. Now, if you're still worried about security, another thing that one of the people that in that originally Gizmo article wrote back and said, oh, people worried about you can actually copy the RFID data and make a false passport. And obviously, the idea of these false passports is that you can, that's why they've more recently, the last 2 years, have made it so it's harder to make a false passport in terms of the printing of it. But if someone's written here, in this particular article, and so a reply to it says, I was under the impression that people didn't forge passports, they just forged identities and got real passports, nowadays at least. So don't worry about getting having your passport being forged. They're better off. It's easier probably for people to forge your identity and get a real passport with their photo on the passport pretending to be you. Okay, that's enough. If you want to know any more, email me. Any comments, email me. Other than that, that's it. See you later. Bye.